I have not even shown Nick this before. He doesn't even know what he's about to see. Take a look at this. Over 50% of men under the age of 30 are virgins.
Huh.
At an all-time high.
So, but again, that reinforces the idea that, well, yeah, they're all incels. Or it reinforces the idea that they hear that what you have is...
No, because it said that they went on dates. It didn't say that they had
Yeah,
sex. It didn't
yeah.
say that they're
Well,
married or anything like that.
No, but it's... The thing is that there's this interesting dynamic that's taking place right now. Like, one of the frustrations that kept getting mentioned was that 70% of the women were sleeping with 20% of the guys. And
now none of the guys are sleeping with anyone.
Well, and the argument was that the problem this was creating within hookup culture was this idea that all the women are sleeping with a relatively small group of guys. And then what ends up happening is when a woman sleeps with maybe a guy that's out of her league, this is the theory, that she thinks that's what she can get to like actually marry her or form a committed relationship with her. And that's not the reality. And so that was something that would explain this. It's like, oh yeah, like the explanation was, well, yeah, you have, because women are more sexually liberated now, and because they're all going for the quote unquote top tier guys, that's who's getting all the action, right? That was the argument. But there appears to be something else going on here that doesn't explain as, let's say, as neatly as it used to. And if we want to go back to the other chart, I think we might have something of an explanation there.
This one?
Yeah. So if we scroll down more. Okay.
There was no correlation for absent fathers.
Yeah. No.
There was not really correlation on education.
Yeah.
A little bit on parenting styles, actually.
Yeah, there was.
This was interesting. The percentage who said that they can't talk to their parents about everything versus those who can.
Yeah.
Those who can't actually fell further.
Yes.
Which was a bit interesting. But
the
then the strongest
biggest one
is religion.
Religion. For those that considered religion very important, it dropped off significantly under both categories.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I would love to see a correlating chart that was arranged exactly the same way as that last chart. To show, because young men are really flocking to religion at this point. I mean, it's specifically the more traditional, kind of Catholic religion or Catholic denomination, Orthodox. Mm-hmm. There's a big shift to a very traditional form of Christian religion.
Yeah. And the only reason I wanted to bring that up is go back to the other chart about people identifying as virgins.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
I mean, it's exploded.
If you start to see, well, again, if you look at 1989 to 2008, it was flat for most, or it was kind of up and down, but within the 10 to 20. I mean,
it was really
the vast majority of men had again had a sexual partner before they were 30. It starts to increase in 2008. You see this big shift between 2016, like from 2008 to 2018, and then it steadily goes up over the next several years. Now you can throw COVID in there, you can throw other things in there, but what I think is also interesting is I don't know the answer. I don't know how much of this return to this idea of traditional religious beliefs has caused men to essentially abstain.
I think we're putting the cart before the horse. I think.
Well, no, wait. I'm not saying that's the conclusion. I'm saying I don't know how that factors in. I also don't know how things like incredible access to pornography factors in. I also don't know.
But that's also shown to be on decline. And then also,
but recently.
Okay, but can I also point out too that the age of young men getting married has also gone higher. Mm-hmm. So maybe
they're just not hanging out with women I don't know what to tell you guys. Like they're not in relationships with women. They can sometimes go on dates, but you know what happens? They go on a date with a woman and they realize the woman is nuts, and then they don't go on another date with her. And then they go and report when they get surveyed, yeah, I've been on a date. I hated it. Mm. Women are crazy and I want to take their rights away.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm just telling you what's happening.
Yeah,
That's.
Well, how many dates have you been on where you thought the woman was nuts, and that's why you?
Well, to your point, I haven't been on a date since I was in high school.
Exactly. So we don't know how these dates are actually going.
We had there was this conversation in our circle community. I'm
Yeah.
shilling for our community here.
Yeah.
Somebody was having a conversation about topics similar to this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually a friend of ours that's also in our Minecraft community. I think it was Sam who was, talking. He was replying to somebody, and Sam's a younger guy. He's in the UK, much younger than me. He's like 10 years younger than me. And, he was like talking about his interactions with women. And I replied to him and I'm like, you know how I fix this problem? I just don't talk to women. It had like 30 people liking that comment.
Well, so again,
Well, I mean, does this? I mean,
I think there's a lot of guys that are in that boat where they're like, here, I'm exaggerating to a
but
degree.
women are kind of at
What-
the same. They're also not liking how men's minds are. So men.
That's
are
my
no
point. They're
longer
shifting
liking-
apart.
Men are no longer liking how women's minds work. Recognizing women and men are very different, and they have to be. There is this idea that men would much prefer women to be beautiful versions of men, mentally. So they want the aesthetics of the woman, but they would rather her mind work like a man's. It's just easier to deal with. But it doesn't. And then women also want men to be mentally feminine,
So speaking of the difference
but
between men and
looking
women,
visually good as a man, right? And so it's almost like we have no tolerance for the differences in how our minds work anymore.
Well, let's-
so hang on. You're jumping ahead again,
No.
just a little bit,
But
because
let's not spend 45 minutes on the framing then. Let's get moving.
no, we're getting into the perspectives here. I mean, I was trying to share a perspective a minute ago, somewhat hyperbolic, but I do think that what has happened is that sometimes men, they do go on. It's not like dating's completely dead, but what happens is that in that 18 to 30-year-old bracket, a man can go on a date with a woman. It goes horribly for a variety of reasons, many of which might be because of politics or theology or something cultural. And then he's like, this is not for me. Women are crazy, and I want to take their rights away when they get pulled. I'm going to become massively more right-wing. And we also saw, though, that those who don't go on dates have also moved to the right, but it's those who interact with women have become more right-wing. How can both be true? How can those who interact with women shift further to the right at the same time that male virginity in the 18 to 30-year-old bracket is, at an all-time high? Show me at any point in history where an absolute majority of 18 to 30-year-old men are virgins.
Mm-hmm.
This period here, from 1989 to 2008, is almost a 20-year period.
Yeah.
From 2008 to today is also almost, not quite, a 20-year period. So from 1989 to 2008, it shifted 1% from 7%. That's really low, really low, to 8%, really low still. That's a whole generation, a 20-year, almost 19-year period. From 2008 to today, which is, that's like 17 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It went from 8% to north of 50.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me what has happened. At the same
men
time,
and women
that
are somehow not attracted to each other anymore.
they hate each other. I don't know what else to say.
Well, and it used to be that there was at least sexual gratification that could, spark something. And at this point, not even the idea of sexual gratification is inducing these people to.
They're being turned on. I've gone to put a bow on this segment. I've shown you guys 3 important things. I showed you party identification and stratification between men and women, all-time high among the youngest crowd, 18 to 29-year-old. Biggest gender divide of any group in America at any point in time. And that women, young women, 18 to 29-year-old women, are more to the left than any other group in America, whereas 18 to 29-year-old men are arguably more to the right than any other group in America.
Yeah.
And that 18 to 29-year-old men have shifted harder to the right than any other group. That's the first thing I showed you. Second thing I showed you was these basic questions about like gender equality and feminism, all-time low for 8th to 10th grade boys. And that the biggest drop-offs were among men who did go on dates with women.
Yeah.
But it's down across the board. And then the last point that I showed you is that male virginity in among the 18 to 30-year-old crowd, who historically are not known for being virgins, is at an all-time high where an absolute majority of them are virgins. All three of those points are completely unprecedented if you go any further back than like 10 years or 15 years.
And there's one thing I want to be careful about here, because I've always had this problem with this idea of like, oh my gosh, more men are virgins. What a horrible thing. And I'm like, my first question is, are they married? Because if they're not, that's not a bad thing. And I think we need to make a distinction here.
They're definitely not married.
Well, there you go. Right. That's another.
Well,
that's
it doesn't
another,
say unmarried.
Wait a
it just
second.
says.
Okay, but that can be safely assumed that if you're married, you're probably having sex.
Hold
right?
on.
So,
Hold on. I'm talking about the graph itself just says men under 30 who report 0 female sex partners since they turned 18.
Sure, but Tina, we know that 18 to 30-year-old men are getting married at a much reduced rate versus, say, the boomer generation.
Yeah. So my point is that I just want to make a clear distinction before we move into asking questions about like why some of this is going on, right? But
I am so sorry, but I'm trying to say the reason that matters is because you've got this very high percentage of men obviously now unmarried, whereas before that number might be lower because men were marrying younger.
Yes.
That's all I'm trying to say.
No, I think that's fair. I think one of the things that we look at is because marriage has been delayed, more people are not, having sex or is not as sexually active in that, or at least more men. The only distinction I want to make, okay, is if you're a man and you're not married, you being a virgin is not a bad thing. Okay, it's not a bad thing. You shouldn't be going out there racking up body counts. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. That is bad. That is not good for you. That is not good for her. It's fine. The problem, though, comes when you do the overlapping thing where it's like, no, these young men want to get married. They can't get married. And now the enticement of even maintaining a relationship with a woman for the promise that you might get to have sex is not even sufficient to cause them to either look for those dates or go into those relationships, because there is a heightened degree of like animosity between men and women. At the same time that you have an explosion of, and now this is the part where I'm going to really get controversial, LGBTQ. Right. And at the same time, we also have an explosion of pornography, which impacts both men and women. So there's all these other things that are factoring into this, but all of them are there.